Hello, Namaskar, and welcome all esteemed panelists for this last session of the day. Welcome to the fifth edition of Elets National PSU Summit. This is our fifth edition, and before this, there were four successful conferences on PSUs and innovations. And like the earlier four editions, the fifth edition has also evolved into one of the major platforms for brainstorming and discussing issues and opportunities which are facing the PSU, the world of PSUs. So we had a very eventful whole day program today, starting from 9:30 a.m. onwards. We are joined by the additional secretary in the Government of India, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. He was keynote speaker in the program inaugural. Then we had very eminent speakers from PSU ecosystem, CMDs, directors, and there were also representation from the corporate sector also, as well. In the afternoon, we had a very special guest with us, the chief guest, Mr. Suresh Prabhu, who outlined his views about the PSUs and how they are well prepared to meet the challenges of the future. So now we are going to start the last session, addressing the challenges of the future. And we are joined by a very eminent panel of learned speakers here. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Ashutosh A.T. Pednekar. Mr. Pednekar is a 2001 batch IAS officer, and currently he is heading RICO, Rajasthan Industrial Corporation, and also he is the commissioner of DMIC, Delhi Mumbai Industrial Development Corridor. We are also joined by Mr. George Kuruvilla. He is the CMD of BASIL. Mr. Kuruvilla has been one of our routine speakers in these forums. Welcome, George, sir. It's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Rajiv Bishnoi, Director Technical in TSDC India, Schedule A, Miniratna PSU. So we are going to start the panel now. I will request Mr. Ashutosh Pednekar to start the keynote of this session. Mr. Pednekar has been instrumental in bringing a lot of reforms and innovations and initiatives in the industrial landscape of Rajasthan, and how he is trying very hard to propel Rajasthan into the global industrial map. We would be hearing to Mr. Pednekar's views. Over to you, Mr. Pednekar. And before you start, let me also announce that this session would be moderated by Mr. George Kuruvilla, the CMD of BASIL. Over to you, Ashutosh, sir. Please unmute yourself, Mr. Ashutosh Pednekar.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Ji, and let me also welcome all my fellow panelists also in this discussion. And it's very nice that Elets is having this webinar on the topic of PSUs, which I think is a very important topic, especially in the context of today and the kind of economic challenges that we are facing at the moment. I am a managing director of RICO. I'm also chairman of another PSU, a mini Ratna PSU called REEL, Rajasthan Instrumentation and Electronics Limited. With the kind of experience that I've been having in this present organization for the past year or so, let me give you a brief background about RICO. RICO was established in 1969. It's more than a 50-year-old PSU, which has been working. It's a 100% government-owned company, which has been working in the field of industrial development, where we actually develop the industrial infrastructure, which is required for the private players to set up their own industries. We started out in 1969 with just about 12 industrial areas, and right now we have more than 350 industrial areas. We have more than 42,000 factories and industries are located in the RICO areas. And this dramatic rise in terms of the spread of industrialization, which has taken place throughout the state, what it has also done is that it has now encouraged private players also to set up their own industrial areas, and also to give in turn allocate plots and land to for industrial development. So in that sense, RICO has played its role as a catalyst to ensure that industrial development takes place. So not to take it upon itself only, but to also ensure that there is hand-holding and capacity building which takes place in the economy and in a wider sense, so that development can take place in that sense. So in that sense, I think the role of a PSU starts when there is not much, when the sector is not developed as much, and to ensure that not only the sector is developed, but the capacity of the private sector is also developed to ensure that general development takes place. As far as RICO is concerned, a good record of RICO has been that for the past 50 years, it has continuously been a profit making entity. And that is, I think, a testament to the kind of professional management of the PSU, which has been done for the past 50 years, and that is something which is a long-standing tradition that we have been trying to keep, in the sense that the recruitment is of a very high standard. The kind of human resource which is there in the company is of a very high standard, highly qualified, highly professionally qualified personnel which are there in the company. And not just that, it is not a one-time activity of when the recruitment only takes place, but we have a continuous program of capacity building, managerial expertise which is built of the employees over continuously over a period of time by having tie-ups with organizations like the IIMs, etc. So that is where we pride ourselves on ensuring that a capacity building is done to ensure that we can deliver the best to our clients. Uh, as a PSU, we are obviously answerable to the government and to the public as at large, and I think that is a hallmark of a PSU in that sense. So it's not just, although RICO has been a profit-making entity for the past 5 decades, but that is not really the hallmark. The hallmark is that we have ensured that we are accountable to the public and the government, and also ensured that decisions are taken which might not be the most kind of important from the profit making point of view, but to ensure equity and wider development uh, of the entire region, the hinterland of Rajasthan also. So this is where the PSU's role in cross subsidizing and ensuring that the areas which are highly profit making cross subsidize another area which is not as developed, to ensure that industrial development takes place throughout the hinterland. And this is something that we have prided ourselves in doing. In fact, on the 30th of this month, the Honorable CM would be launching 24 industrial areas in one go throughout the state of Rajasthan. Now, we have been able to do this because obviously we do well in a certain area, then we cross subsidize in another area. One of the other things I like to highlight in terms of a PSU's role is also when there are economic challenges, we step in to ensure that, again, by taking a kind of a hit on the bottom line, but to ensure that the wider interests are taken care of, the wider industrial interests are taken care of. For example, in this very challenging COVID time right now, we have launched a 220 crore relief package for the industrialists. Now, obviously, this is something, if you take a short term view, it might not be in the short term economic or financial interest of RICO, but as a public sector undertaking, RICO takes a more longer term view of the entire economy, the state interest, and what is in the interest of the overall industrial development of the state. So, although it might not appear financially prudent in the short sense, in the short term, but when we take a long-term economic point of view, we find that we can take up decisions like this, which are good in the interest of the industry and the state over a long-term period of time. As a PSU, again, we are answerable to the public, as I just said, so we have to be transparent. So we take our decisions, where our decisions are obviously open to audit. And for that reason, we have now, because we are in the business of developing and selling land, the entire process is completely transparent through the means of an e-auction. So the reason I'm saying this is because the facilities or the kind of options which are available to a completely private sector player would obviously not be available to a public sector entity. And we are proud of the fact that we are doing this very transparently. And this is the reason why, through the e-auction process, we have made it accessible to so many of the to all the people throughout the country and throughout the state. And we launched this last year, and the result of this has been that we have seen in the last financial year, we, in spite of the challenging macroeconomic environment, we have seen a 325% increase in sale of plots over the previous financial year after launching of the e-auction, the transparent e-auction process. This only goes to show that more transparency that is brought in the more the participation of people in terms of and the industrialists takes place, especially in the area that we operate in. These were some of the things that I think which actually distinguish a PSU from other private sector enterprises, and I think that is why I just wanted to highlight some of these features. I would also like to highlight that the kind of role a PSU plays in the initial, for example, in the pre-liberalization era, RICO actively played the part of investing equity in private enterprises. And as the private sector developed or matured, after the post-liberalization area, RICO no longer had to do this. But we only restricted ourselves to giving loans to private entities. And in the later area, in the later years, we have found that once the startup culture has come in, we have also gone in a big way in the venture capital fund area, where we have spent about 300 crore rupees on ensuring that we back up venture capitals, the new startups, which have some of them which have proved extremely successful. So this, I think, is another role that we see for ourselves as a public sector undertaking. As chairman of REAL, let me also very briefly say about that. For example, we were into manufacturing of solar panels. Now, as a PSU, we were in that area when there were hardly any private players in this particular area. And now we find that Rajasthan has become one of the leading players in the solar space. And I think a great deal of credit for this goes to the kind of role which the PSU, like REAL as a mini Ratna, played in this. Now, of course, we find that there are so many other players have come in. So we have decided that that field can be now taken care of by the private sector. But at the same time, areas like, for example, electric charging stations for EVs, this we find is an area where the PSU has to take the lead role to ensure that we actually show how a proper business model can be developed, and other private sectors, private player entities can then follow suit. I'm just trying to kind of illustrate certain examples just to illustrate the immense role which is, and a very important role which is there for a public sector undertaking even in today's world. With that, I would like to end my address. Thank you very much.
Detailed, an overview of the entire RICO as a PSU as well as about REAL. And it's really nice to see and hear that very professionally managed PSU, and it really gives, excites us that how a PSU can really play an extremely constructive role, and it is the need of the hour when these are times, difficult times, that PSUs actually are now playing the key pivotal role, or it is the in the center of making the businesses work. So I think now we can look at Mr. Vishnoi, who is director THDC. So please, can you share some thoughts on how THDC has looking for the future technologies and the future business and the challenges that are before you?
Thank you, George. I hope I'm audible to each one of you.
Yes.
Okay. Uh, really, Mr. Ashutosh set the tone of the session. And let me now tell you very quickly as to what we think in our organization. We are basically a Schedule A public sector undertaking under Ministry of Power, central government. And we have the Mini Ratna status also. And I think it was in the news also that NTPC has bought 75% of the equity in THDC in the last 6 months' time, with just 6 months before. And now we are partially owned by NTPC and then partially owned by government of UP. So now this development, what I'm trying to say is that the dilution of government's stake, the central government's stake, and then handing over the stake of central government to another public sector, which has a large base of investors, involving investors from abroad also. So we are basically owned by a company like NTPC, and we are answerable to all the shareholders. Now this is a new ecosystem we have been asked to work in. And this ecosystem basically has put on us a different set of responsibilities, I would say, in respect of operational and financial performance. Uh, Otherwise, also, originally we were a hydro project development company, and we had started diversifying into other modes of energy development, including solar. And we are trying to enter into Rajasthan also. We have already placed our interest with the government of Rajasthan, trying to develop 1500 megawatts solar there. And recently, we have taken up one thermal project also. It is already under construction. We have developed two wind projects in Gujarat. Those are already operational, working. We have developed one solar in Kerala. So we are working in pan India, scenario. And now the this taking over of NTPC, taking over by NTPC, a partial equity of THDC, that has added value to the organization. Now, in the sense that earlier, we had a lot of issues whenever we used to take the investment decisions on any project. So the idea, basically, the point of discussion was always like how to arrange for the internal resource to fund the equity portion of the equity capital of the project. Now that is the NTPC's association has given us a leverage that this is no more an issue, and we can, for us, sky is the limit now. So we can expand the way we want to expand now. So this is how we look at it, and we have already started, expanding our wings, and a lot of projects we are looking at now. Two super critical, two ultra mega solar power projects of 600 megawatts each. We have already started building in government of with government of UP. And this is on the assurance from our parent company that yes, any problems related to equity infusion, they are with us. So what I'm trying to say is that this decision of government of dilution of PSU's stake and giving it to a company which is already well established and very strong, having very strong financial parameters. This is adding value to the public sector undertakings, and I don't see any reason to oppose this wherever people are trying to think otherwise. So this is a good future, and this is going to address so many challenges also, as I just mentioned. I mean, challenge of infusing some additional equity in new projects and expanding your diversifying into new areas, and then even leveraging technical strengths also, because you have a lot of database and technical strength with the parent company. So that is one important dimension of the future, which I see a good development from the government side. Second, what I see is that in our company particularly, what we have taken serious steps in reducing the operational costs of the operation. So because this is a drawback with most of the public sector undertakings, and I think all the panelists, they would agree with me that this is an area where all of us need to improve. Whatever we say, we are still not the best. So we have to be best as far as operational costs are concerned. So the operational efficiency is still the area where each one of us has to really keep on working and then keep on evolving ways and means to minimize this operational costs and trying to bring the profitability to the company. Second important issue is now Government of India, they have already taken up a mission, which is the mission is basically the Atmanirbhar Bharat and Make in India initiatives, and then this is a mission where we are fully involved, and we have already started contributing towards that, because the power sector is a sector where you are dependent on most of the imported segments and imported components related to power machines and power plants. So we have started developing those spares and those segments domestically also. We have done a lot of research work also, and we have cut short our import bill something like by 70% to 75% in the last 1 year. And we have assured the government that yes, that is something Atmanirbhar Bharat and Make in India, that as far as our organization is concerned, we are fully committed to this, and in next 1 year time, I think it will be fully domestically supported organization uh, uh, in respect of the reducing the import bill issue. Next is basically this was a thrust area by Honorable Prime Minister also, that you must integrate all the research and innovation works being done by different organizations, different PSUs. So it should not so happen that at the same time all the PSUs are working on the similar assignments, and then they're trying to innovate the wheel in closed shells. So this is a good point which was given by Honorable PM last year, and we have taken it very seriously. All the public sector undertakings in Power Ministry, under the control of Power Ministry, we have started exchanging ideas, and then sharing the knowledge base with each other, and then trying to support each other with the kind of experiences we have on developing several projects. So this is one new kind of dimension where most of these public sectors they are working in, and I would definitely request my fellow managers from other public sectors that wherever such possibilities exist, let's try to encourage this. Then the next big thing what we are trying to do is, which is normally the case with the PSUs, is that we really try to become conservative whenever we are trying to take up new projects and new capital capex projects. That we have certain debt on the company, and then we always see what is the annual profit we are making, and then debt, total debt upon the total profit is the ratio. If it is more than 4 or 5, then we don't really we are not very much inclined in taking up the new capex projects. So the idea now here is, because we want to have more and more investments, and this is the need of the hour, particularly in the current pandemic situation. So as the Honorable Finance Minister also, about a couple of months back, she said that the PSUs should start leveraging the strength of the balance sheets. So if you have the strength in your balance sheet, then you must leverage it. So try to, like, currently we were working with a total debt equity ratio of something like 0.5. So I mean there is a lot of scope to leverage our balance sheet strength, and we can easily surpass 1. We can take this ratio to 1, and then we can invest a lot of money in the new capex projects. So this is the thing which we have started doing, and we have taken up new projects in a big way, and with the support of our parent company NTPC, I think we'll be next few years, particularly 3 or 4 years, we try to double our net worth, which is currently 10,000 crores. It should go to 20,000 crores. That's the target we are keeping with ourselves. Just to conclude, what I'm trying to say is that organic growth is the company is one thing which everyone, each one of us is trying. But this is the time when inorganic growth is also the idea, and one has to look at it, that how to ensure the inorganic growth also. So that is one. And as far as PSUs are concerned, I think these are the large commercial organizations which are not constituted or which are not formed only for the purpose of the financial profits and financial performance. The social responsibility is a big responsibility, and I think we have this responsibility on us, and that at the same time, as Ashutosh also mentioned, I mean, we have to take this responsibility along, and then along with the financial performance, this is another area which another responsibility which we should continue to shoulder. Let me stop here, and then I'd like to listen to other panelists, and then maybe make comments wherever necessary. Thank you, George.
Thank you, Mr. Bishnoi, for talking about the various aspects, and quite interesting. What you said, that the merger with NTPC has really helped in a way that now the majority shareholding is with NTPC, and so all the professional strength and those learnings will definitely percolate down to THDC as well. and now you have got the financial strength to look into bigger projects. It's wonderful to hear that. And as you rightly said, government's decision to consolidate a similar type of PSUs where we can bring synergies together and where we can complement and supplement each other. That is a wonderful decision which will go a long way in pulling our resources together to build up the PSUs together. Wonderful there. And I would talk a little bit about Bessel being part of the panel. Bessel is Broadcast Engineering Consultant India Limited. We were formed in March 1995. So we completed 25 years, and we are 100% owned by Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. Um, so we have been initially working for the radio and TV projects. So all these years, the initial television studios that were built, and the radio stations and the community radio. So we have built the Lok Sabha television, the Raj Sabha television, many media centers in the universities have been built by us, and also in radio, private FM was actually entrusted, the responsibility by the ministry was entrusted on Basel. So the private SMFF was to be established in 86 cities, where we combined the private FM radio transmitters and combine their powers and put them onto an antenna which is hosted on All India Radio or Doordarshan Tower. So thereby we integrated that, and now 86 cities has got nearly 350 radio channels which have been installed by us and being maintained by us. And so that apart, we are manufacturing community radio, which are low 5 to 10 kilometer range, 50-watt powered transmitter, which is good for NGOs, for the trust, for the universities, and can cover for the local area development. So this is a very useful tool which can be used for a community development or education, teaching, and local issues can be dealt with, including agriculture, health, and other issues. So that is one area also we are contributing. In the last few years, of course, the social media became an important thing. So now we have, we do the command and control system, social media command and control center for some of the major department, including our own Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. So that's a new area in the last few years that we have developed. And we have realized when we are looking to the future of how the growth will be, definitely the social media has taken a central stage. And so we have now developed, with our partners, platform which can integrate the newsprint, the television, the web-based information, including the social media together. So there's an integrated dashboard on any subject or topic. If any government department would like to know that, okay, what is being spoken about them in different medias, we are able to bring it on the dashboard, the percentage coverage by each media, whether it is a negative or a positive kind of a feedback or a neutral feedback, or what has been talked, and we can drill down to the exact newspaper report and we can read it, and therefore we can give a good response into the issues that are concerning the people at large. So that really helps for any management to take corrective action and also see that how world is looking at us, with what kind of a view they're looking at us. In many cases it is a half knowledge, many cases it is somebody who is just wanting to put us down, and there is very great importance laid to counter those things, present the right picture before the people, whether it is a public sector or about the government in that particular domain that we are in. So social media is another very important futuristic kind of thing. Now this has further gone into data analytics, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity. So we started, getting down into those kind of areas as well, because wherever it is a media management, it is the media archive management, then all this artificial intelligence and cybersecurity and all these areas, blockchain technologies, they're all getting implemented in these areas as well. So we diversified and we see a great future that analytics, data analytics is going to play in the coming days. For example, well, let's say for the power department, definitely, the data, the consumption data and patterns all have been, being developed by, definitely the power ministry, various PSUs which are working in the ministry will have. And as you know, the artificial intelligence is brought in, and which is able to have a prediction of things. It must be definitely having, but predicting what can be future can really, we can optimize our resources according to what the predictive learnings come from the data analysis, which if it is good, it can bring in. So these are areas we are working for, mostly for the media related predictive analysis, and basically the monitoring, and the information and the response of different departments. The other areas that we got into, because being a technology company and worked, I myself have been in Doordarshan for 23 years from the engineering services, and was in the broadcast services for nearly 23 years. We work for the social causes, and how technology we can, through technology we can reach to the last mile, both the radio signal and the TV signal. So all those learning, using the radio frequency to the best, the satellite technology, and the cable TV industry, how to reach, and use it. And so all these together, today in a converged world, we are able to, get into any technological kind of projects which involves satellite, cable, radio frequencies, CCTVs, access controls, and all these areas. So we got into projects of doing CCTV, command and control, the integrated 5 layer, the command and control. Then this, further takes us to a very new and future areas, is basically, those cards, which are like security cards, like Honorable Prime Minister talking about the health cards. There is a single card that can be intermodal when you travel from buses to the train to the metros and others. How seamlessly using one single card you can travel. There are cards, which are required for the PDS kind of thing, for the public distribution so network. It can be used. So we are, working with the partners together to provide a total end-to-end solution, so that a seamless kind of one card all solution can be used. So different areas now we have diversified into, which are going to be future areas. Further, there are certain areas like language translation. So we look at education, the national health policy, which was recently announced, a great policy, as for education, for how it can transform the education. And in that, there is a forum for technology, forum for education, and we are looking at that. And the language translation, how a lecture which is delivered in English by a professor, from IITs or IIMs, or institutes of eminence, how it can be translated in different languages using technology, which can be done at a very fast pace, which can have near accurate kind of translation. All those areas we're looking, which can really help in the translation of the of the material, and making it available for people of different language, and in their regional, in their mother tongue, which is Prime Minister's dream, which is already talking at different forums. So that is another area that we are now getting involved in, that how these solutions can be used for the good of a common man at the last mile. Last mile connectivity, again, it's one area that we have been working. We are the auditors for the cable TV industry. So the cable TV head-ends we audit, we are tri-mandated, and any TD-SAT cases, they come to us for audit. So we handle the cable TV industry in terms of monitoring on behalf of Ministry of INB, and wherever there's a head-end dispute between the broadcasters and the cable TV operators, we come into picture. So Bessel is playing a key role in the broadcast, all the areas of broadcast, and all the new technology areas we are into, getting into projects, so that we become an interface between all the startups, all the new technology areas, and the Government of India projects, and we become an interface like all PSUs have been spoken by the previous panelists, that this is a big role that we play, is that, we connect, the government, to the private sector as well, and bring value out there. So I think I'll stop there, because we need to be, spending little time in further discussion. So now I would request, Mr. Ashutosh, you have wonderfully stated that how industrial, RICO has played an important role, to create new companies coming in, and providing the infrastructure facilities, making it possible. You spoke about two things. One is the venture capitalist. How is that venture capitalist fund is being utilized? What is the model for people to know that if they really want to invest in RICO, how they can come in and how the startup companies can utilize this fund? How is the system mechanism working? You can unmute yourself. Yeah, Mr. Ashutosh, you have to unmute yourself. Yeah, yeah, sure.
So the way the Rajasthan Venture Capital Fund works is that the major seed capital has come from RICO. That is when we started out. But after that, we have organizations like SIDBI, we have international organizations like DFID, and other organizations, including other angel investors who have also come in. And then there's a very major pool of funds that we have created where we have
Mhm,
funded various organizations. We do have certain kind of criteria in the sense that we do. Initially, it was on a pan India basis, but once we have found that there is no shortage of
mhm,
venture capital funds throughout the country, we are now currently trying to promote ventures which are
mhm,
based within the state of Rajasthan. We try to single out or try to especially support those funds or those startups which are which are having a high technology content
mhm,
and which can be rapidly scaled up. Of late, we have been trying to look at sectors like medicine, retail, and these kind of
mhm,
sectors and other high technology sectors which are scalable. And the good thing is that what we have found is that certain sectors, for example, medicine, for example,
mhm,
agriculture, animal husbandry, or technology startups which are based in these sectors have done
mhm.
really very well. So that is how it works. We have a very we have our board of directors, which is consisting of people who are highly qualified in this particular field, which have vast amount of
Mhm,
expertise. So that is how we have kind of positioned ourselves.
mhm.
We also have an investment arm which has a major corpus of about 700 crore plus rupees, where
Mhm.
we actually give loans to various industrial ventures. So this is how we actually kind of support the industry or new players in the industry, and also trying to help those industrialists who are looking to expand their operations also.
Okay, that's really great, and thank you for sharing that. A lot of private sector players, who would like to set up industries can look at these, especially the ones, as he rightly said, those who can be, can scale up and they don't have the seed money for it. They can start working using the funds available and to, have those platforms which can get into all those retail and, as he said, pharmaceutical and other industrial people can join in there. And to Mr. Vishnu, we are, you talked about a lot of things, concerning the Atmanirbhar Bharat as well as and exchanging ideas between the PSUs. Very rightly, that how we can, the best learning or the best, the capability of one PSU can be emulated, can be copied by others, and it can be used. And if we share with each other, and definitely that's Prime Minister's mandate, and a lot of thought has gone. There's PSU forums where we are working on it, but a lot more can be done from there. One thing that came into my mind was, and we were thinking about, is that the grid part of it. How the power grid is working. Is there integration nationally or state-wise network? When you're using different thermal, the solar, the hydel, all power together and state network, and there's a big challenge. Sometimes the night and day consumption, sometimes the seasonal consumptions, and what is that? The new or things are happening in the power department.
Thank you, George, and very pertinent question. In fact, this is a very fast changing uh, scenario, power sector. And what we discussed today, it doesn't hold good next year. So, because it's so dynamic in nature, I have been a power professional for almost 33 years, and I have seen the last 5 years
Yes.
it is huge change. I mean, the change is so quick
Mhm.
and so fast that by the time you try to accommodate yourself and acquaint yourself, the new
Mhm.
scenarios, the new variables are there in the market. Is today
Yeah.
we are one nation, one grid. That's the best thing
Mm.
which a country can have. A country like us, we have one nation, one grid. All the regional grids have been connected with each other with adequate capacity. You can generate in one part of the country and then one part in the other part of the country. There is
Okay.
absolutely no problem now. And sufficient capacity, transmission capacity is also available. Government has invested a lot of money on
Mhm.
developing the transmission corridors and adequate capacity transmission corridor, which we call interstate transmission capacity, that is today available. So what Rajasthan today is trying to do, developing a lot of solar capacity in their state. They are going in a big way. They have set an example in the country. This power has to be evacuated, and for that, transmission corridors need to be set in place. So a lot of capacity has already been developed, and then before the projects come up, the further capacities are being developed now, transmission capacity. Now it brings a lot of challenges also, because the power flowing from different kinds of sources, it has different characteristics. Power from a thermal project is has different characteristics, and power from solar plant has a different characteristics. When the sun rises, power is available. When the sun sets, there is no power. Now, even during the day, if there are clouds, the power reduces drastically. So this is what is called is intermittency of the power flowing from these projects, and this is there with wind power projects and the solar power projects. Now this intermittency is basically not a good thing for the grid, because it destabilizes the grid. It has a direct bearing on the quality of power. It affects the voltage, it affects the current, the angular stability. So there are many. It affects the frequency also. So this is not a desirable thing, and for which a lot of discussions are being done at the power among the power sector professionals as to how to deal with this problem. And we have been thinking, and we have been involved in the discussions at various government forums also. And then idea is to have adequate storage facilities, whether it is in terms of battery storage or the pumped storage plants, where whenever we have additional power, we consume immediately, absorb that power, and whenever there is a deficit, we pump the power back. So this kind of regulation of power has to be done, for which government has now made a separate corporation, POSOCO, you must have heard of, who are responsible only for the grid operation. So this corporation is responsible only for the grid operation, the complete national grid, and then they are also advising the regional grids, and then how to back down, how to increase the load and everything, so as to keep the grid stable. So and the best example, if you remember, the 5th of April event, 9 p.m. event, when the Honorable PM gave a call of switching off all the lights at 9 p.m. This was a big challenge to the power sector professionals, because the idea was that at least 15 to 20 percent of the capacity, total capacity, will suddenly go down, and then you have to adjust your power plants in a way that the grid doesn't get affected. But this was an estimate. What actually happened was 25% capacity suddenly went down, and then it had to be supported. The grid was to be supported, where the hydro projects came to the rescue of the grid, and we moderated the power flow from hydro projects in a way that we shut down the power plants whenever there was no need. Immediately when there was a need, we bring it on track. So we ramped up the power. So these kinds of lot of things are being done. And then the latest thing which is happening with the national grid is the smart grid. Now we are going to have a smart grid. Now smart grid basically is the smartness is all the segments of the grid, starting from generation, where you can control the generating power plants from a distance location without having any manpower there, and as per the need you can just switch on and switch off the power plants. Even the individual machines within the power plant can be switched off and switched on. depending upon the requirement, by a person sitting in a control center. Then the transmission lines, during the transmission lines also you can connect or disconnect wherever is the requirement. You can load, unload. Then at the distribution sector also, a lot of smartness is being brought in, and that is in terms of installing the smart meters, and then prepaid meters, and then installing meters at the feeder. So just to check any kind of thefts issues and other issues. So a lot of things are happening, and the good thing is that our country is moving very fast and trying to adopt to these new environment and new ecosystem of the power, changing power environment. So 1 year down the line, I see a very good power situation in the country. Even today, we are now termed as power surplus country. You might be aware of. And the next bill which is coming in the parliament is the 24/7 power is the right of the consumer. So it's
Right.
right of the consumer, and if in case the distribution company is not really able to provide 24/7, they will have to pay penalty to the consumer.
Right, right. So that's a great, yeah, great information that you gave. And as you rightly said, it's a big challenge, maintaining the grid. And as you also said, that now there are newer things coming, the newer technologies, how to, maintain the various things using, and as we were discussing, using the predictive analysis and using the artificial intelligence, how the grid can, be ready for such situations. So that was really great. And I think we have just 5 minutes to go. Quickly, if Mr. Ashutosh can talk about, the Instrumentation Limited now, which is real. What is the innovation you have thought, or how it has turned around from in the past? What is the focus area? Quickly, in 3 minutes, if you can talk about it.
See, very briefly, the product portfolio which is there is now required to be changed, because the traditional strengths which were there were, first of all, in
Right.
the solar field, and also in the field of analyzers and milk testing, especially for the agriculture field. Now, these were major strength areas. But at the same time, we have to look towards the future. The future is for two reasons. Number one is both these areas would be seeing increased competition. So that would be hitting our bottom line. And the second part, has to be more future ready. We saw that there was a huge opportunity, especially due to Fame 2, in the electrification space. And in that sense, so we have designed our own electric vehicle charging stations. They have already been installed in various parts of the country. We feel that there's a huge potential in that. So I'm just trying to say that we are trying to adapt ourselves, not just for the present, but also to see where the future lies, and also to ensure that our technical staff is also trained and upgraded accordingly, and their skills are upgraded accordingly. So that is how we are seeing it for the future.
Excellent. As you rightly said, electric charging is the future, and putting up charging stations, where to put the charging station, how the whole operations are going to work, how much time the charging will take for different kinds of vehicle. All these things have to be worked up, and definitely our engineers need to scale up and to understand this newer technology, how best it can be utilized. I think with this, I'll hand it over to Mr. Mishra, because just few minutes are left. If you would like to further ask questions, or we'd like to take it over, Mr. Mishra.
No, thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. You have been a great moderator, and you were able to regulate the session quite well. And it has been a very interactive and a very enriching experience listening to eminent and learned personalities from this panel. Whether it is adopting new technologies by TSDC is concerned, or exploring new innovations by Basil is concerned, or roping in new investments into the state of Rajasthan, and producing a conducive ecosystem for business and investments is concerned. All three of you were able to add a lot of value to this panel. Thank you once again to all of you. And this program will be followed by a special address by GAIL representative. And then in the evening, we have the icing on the cake, the last and not the least. We have the Elets Innovation Awards, PSU Leadership Awards, which is our small token of honoring and recognizing the best practices and best innovations in the field of PSUs, how the PSUs are well poised to take this country to the next pedestal of economic growth. Before I conclude, I'll request my backend team, as the usual gesture, a small token of appreciation from our end. If I may request my backend team to present the certificate of awards, certificate of participation. The first certificate of participation is being presented to Mr. George Kurvila, the Chairman and Managing Director of Broadcast Engineering Consultant India Limited, WISIL. Thank you, George sir. Thank you for your wisdom. Then I have the honor to present the next certificate of participation to Mr. R.K. Vishnoi, Director Technical THDC India Limited. Thank you, Mr. Vishnoi. Thank you for your insight and inputs. And finally, this award of participation, this the second team has given the certificate well in advance. Otherwise, we wanted to give a speaker's certificate to Mr. Ashutosh Pednekar.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Quite happily, the investment environment of the state of Rajasthan. So with this, we conclude this final session of 5th Elets PSU National PSU Summit. And I will look forward to meeting you in the award ceremony, which starts from 7 o'clock onwards. Again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you to everybody. Thank you very much. Okay. कर दो।
विश्व में हमने युवाओं की आईटी एनर्जी के माध्यम से अपना एक रुतबा खड़ा किया है और भारत इसके बात के लिए गर्व कर सकता है। दुनिया में हम आंख में आंख मिला करके बात कर सकते हैं। और ये मेरा साफ, मैं हमेशा कहता आया हूं, आईटी प्लस आईटी इज इक्वल टू आईटी। इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी प्लस इंडियन टैलेंट इज इक्वल टू इंडिया टुमारो।